I was 26, freshly single, and trying to start over. After my breakup, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in a not-so-great part of town. The rent was cheap, the neighbors kept to themselves, and I figured it was the perfect place to be alone and get my life back on track. The apartment was small. Just a living room, a cramped kitchen, and a bedroom with a tiny closet built into the wall. I didn't think much of it. I just wanted peace and quiet. The first night there, I unpacked a few boxes and went to sleep without incident. But the next morning, I noticed the closet door was cracked open, just an inch or two. I was sure I'd shut it. But I was tired, maybe I forgot. This kept happening every night. I'd close the closet before bed. The next morning, open. I even started filming it with my phone. But somehow, every time I looked back at the footage, the door was just closed. Nothing happened. It got worse. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a sound like fabric shifting. Just a soft shuffle. I lay still, barely breathing. It was coming from the closet. I stared at it for what felt like forever, until the door creaked open. This time I saw it. A hand. Pale, thin fingers curled around the edge of the doorframe, before slowly retracting into the darkness. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I didn't even turn on the light. At dawn, I bolted out of bed and opened the closet, heart pounding. Nothing. Just clothes. A few boxes. But when I tapped the back wall, it sounded hollow. I pulled everything out. There was a thin seam, barely visible. I yanked at it, and the panel came loose. Behind it, a crawl space. Inside were candy wrappers. Empty water bottles. A blanket. And a little notebook. The police said it looked like someone had been living in there. 4 weeks. The notebook. It had entries. Dated. Detailed. Pages and pages about me. About what I do almost every day. She brushes her hair before bed. She talks in her sleep. Tonight she sneezed. I still don't know how long she was there. Watching. Listening. Sleeping inches away from where I slept. They never found her. I grew up in rural Oregon, surrounded by tall evergreens, narrow dirt roads, and the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Our family had a black lab named Shadow. He was loyal, smart, protective. He never barked without a reason. One night, my parents were out at a dinner party, and I was home alone, watching cartoons in the living room. Shadow was curled up near the fireplace, snoring softly. That's when I heard scratching at the back door. At first, I assumed it was Shadow needing to go out, but he was still there, asleep. The scratching got louder. It wasn't frantic, it was slow. Methodical. Like claws lightly dragging across the wood. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. There was nothing there. But the scratching kept going. Now I was getting nervous. I turned the porch light on and yanked open the door, ready to yell. There was nothing. Just the woods. As I stood there, confused, I heard Shadow growl behind me. Low. Deep. It made my stomach twist. He was staring at the window. I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw it. A dog. Standing just outside the glass. Same size. Same color. But it wasn't Shadow. Its fur was patchy. Its eyes weren't right. Wide. Too wide. Like they didn't blink. It was grinning. That thing stood there for nearly a minute. Just staring through the window. Its mouth slightly open, tongue hanging out like a real dog, but it wasn't breathing. Then it walked away. Not trotted. Not ran. Walked. Silently. like it was pretending to be normal. The next day, we found paw prints. They circled the house, twice, and ended at the back door. There were no prints leading back into the woods. For weeks, Shadow refused to sleep by the door. He'd sit by my bed, staring out the window, growling at nothing. Whatever that thing was, it wanted us to let it in. Back when I worked nights for a courier company, I mostly handled package routing and radio comms with drivers. It was boring, but quiet. I liked it. Until one night, around 2 a.m., a delivery came through with a flagged request. The customer note simply said, "Deliver to room 6A. Do not knock. Leave the package. Walk away." Weird, sure. But not unheard of. The address was the part that bothered me. It was for the Ridgeway complex. That building had been condemned years ago. Black mold. Fire damage. Totally boarded up. I radioed the driver, Greg, to double-check. "Yeah, I'm here," he said. "Place is a dump. But there's a light on in 6A. He laughed nervously. "I'm just gonna leave it and bounce." I told him to get out of there. It wasn't worth it. Then he went silent. No clicks. No static. Just, gone. I tried calling. Nothing. He didn't show up to work the next morning. We filed a missing persons report. They found his van, parked outside Ridgeway, engine still warm. The package was gone. 2 days later, Greg walked into the office. Clothes dirty. Face pale. He didn't say a word. Just sat in the break room for hours. When I finally asked him what happened, he said, "She opened the door before I even knocked, and she said my name. But I never told anyone I was going there." He quit that same night. Never touched a delivery again. We still don't know who placed that order. The system said the payment came from an expired card. The address? Still boarded up. But sometimes, drivers report seeing a light in 6A. And sometimes, it flickers when you look at it. I inherited the house from my uncle after he passed. It was a big, old Victorian place in upstate New York. Creepy on the outside, beautiful on the inside. Well, most of it. The attic was sealed shut with a thick rusted chain and a padlock. A faded wooden plaque above it said, "Do not open." At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. My uncle had a dark sense of humor. But when I asked around, neighbors just said he never used the attic. Ever. Fine by me. I didn't need it. Months passed. Then, one stormy night, I got a phone call at 3:12 a.m. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Same number. Over and over. Finally, I answered. Static. Then breathing. Shallow. Rhythmic. I said, "Hello," and a voice whispered back. "Why'd you lock me in?" My heart stopped. I hung up. Turned on every light in the house. Then I heard it. Thud. 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 From the ceiling. I grabbed a flashlight and walked up the narrow stairs to the attic door. The chain was on the floor. The padlock broken. The door, slightly open. Inside, there was only dust. Cobwebs. A chair. And a blanket. A little pile of food wrappers. A radio. Old books. And a phone. Sitting on the floor. Its screen lit up. Outgoing call, 3:12 a.m. I left the house that night and never returned. But the calls didn't stop. Now they come once a week. Always at 3:12. Always from a blocked number. Some monsters don't crawl out from under the bed. They don't howl at the moon or chase you through the woods. Sometimes, they live in your walls. Wait behind your doors. Stare at you through windows with familiar faces. And sometimes, they know your name. If you're still listening, maybe check your closet. Check the attic. And if your phone rings tonight, don't answer it. Candles sleep well. If you can. Kitchen knife until next time.